Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Krayden, and I'm really pleased today to have Ken Drysdale with us from the National Citizens Inquiry. Now, you're wondering what that is? You shouldn't be, but it might have something to do with the fact the mainstream media hasn't done a whole lot of reporting about it. So we'll be back momentarily to discuss.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
Hi, if you've been watching this very interesting and informative interview with Ken Drysdale, a commissioner of the National Citizens Inquiry, we're going to move over to Rumble just in case some of the material is a little too controversial for YouTube. Yes, as you saw my cat Sasha do, please ring the bell. Please let us know you're watching. Like this broadcast, like this station. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're trying to hit 15,000 by Christmas or by New Year's, and we're almost there. So I'm very pleased at the response, and thanks for your support throughout the year. Basically started this station, Ken, at the beginning of January. This is not something I ever envisioned myself doing. I was a Air Force officer for much of my career, and when I was doing journalism, it was for mainstream media initially, and then it was for the new media. But doing independent media has been a new experience for me, and I'm very happy. It's allowed me to do things that you can't necessarily do when you're attached to a media organization. But so nice to see you here. And I'm looking at your CV, and I see you spent 40 years as a professional engineer, and you were the chairperson, of course, of the National Citizens Inquiry. Now, I want to read from the executive summary in a minute and get your comment on a few things, but I noted from what you sent me via email that this inquiry has not been well covered by the mainstream media. It's the first thing that I saw when I looked at those notes, and it's a complaint I often have, is that a lot of the news that we're doing independently and as part of new media are ignored by the mainstream media. Now, why do you think the mainstream media did not cover the work you did more thoroughly?
Well, it's interesting. It certainly would have been help to us in the short term to have the mainstream media involved. Particularly that organization in Canada, the CBC, that we spent $1.4 billion of taxpayer money on last year. But even despite the fact that they didn't, the National Citizens Inquiry website has gotten, I think it's just under 30 million viewers so far. And that does not include all of the media exposure that we've gotten on shows like yours across the country, Facebook, YouTube. YouTube's difficult because, when you talk about something that doesn't go along with the government narrative, you're no longer on YouTube. But so we've had millions and millions and millions of people across Canada and around the world tuning in to what we've been doing. And again, that's despite what the CBC and the other legacy media have or have not done. And it's interesting to note to your viewers, and I know we'll get into it, but you'd think the National Citizens Inquiry would be newsworthy because, to our knowledge, what we did has never been done before in the world. Essentially, citizens got together and they created a commission that went across the country and interviewed over 300 live witnesses under oath and prepared a commission report, all within about 6 or 7 months. So you think that'd be newsworthy since it's never been done before in the world, but not according to our mainstream media.
No, and I see you had incredible parameters in place for this in terms of the representation by lawyers, in terms of the amount of people testified that came forth. This was a huge undertaking. And of course, this would have cost the government of Canada billions of dollars to do, and probably 3 years, no doubt. It would have been, if it had been a Crown commission, it would have taken years to come back to report back. I often joke about the fact that the government of Mackenzie King had a Crown Commission to look into the causes of the Great Depression, and they initiated this in 1935, and it was called the Rowell-Surwa report. Did not come back until 1940. When the Depression was over. So,
Well,
and
things
you
haven't.
guys have done you guys have done this in a remarkably short period of time,
Yeah.
and I think you've come up with some very interesting results. I just want to read a few of these here in terms of what you come up with, and to talk about some of the parallel events that are going on with them. Now, you say here in your executive summary, governments undertook unprecedented levels of spending, a reality that will impact generations of Canadians to come. Do you think this pandemic was used as an excuse by government, first of all, in terms of to spend money, and that's happened all over the world, but also, do you think it was used as an excuse to exert authority and to take control over ordinary people's lives?
Both actually happened. I mean, first off, we've got a section in the report about financial matters, and we do discuss the impact on Canadians, and primarily that section's focused on the spending that the government did. And we took right out of the government's website one spreadsheet about one program, and they listed all of the different things they paid for under their pandemic spending. And a lot of it's got nothing to do with the pandemic. They spent, I can't remember the numbers, but they spent lots and lots of money on offshore petroleum cleanup and on the east coast of Canada. And how that had anything to do with pandemic spending, I don't know. And if you look at the ratio of money that they spent in the Aboriginal communities, there were multiple programs. I mean, multiple programs. So it was all split up. And if you didn't add up each one of those programs, you'd have no idea of the huge amount of money they spent. I mean, essentially, the Canadian government almost doubled its national debt. So the national debt that we had gathered in the last almost 150 years, we've almost doubled that just due to pandemic spending. Now, with regard to the interference in Canadians' lives, I mean, my goodness, going into this NCI commission, I thought I knew a lot about what happened. But what we did? What we did was we traveled from coast to coast in Canada, stopped in 8 different cities right across Canada, and spent 3 full days hearing witness testimony in each of those cities. So 24 days of witness testimony. And those, I'll tell you what, some of those days went 14 or 15 hours. And, listening to everyday Canadians tell their stories about injuries or losing their jobs or prejudice that they got, listening to expert witnesses. I don't remember the exact number, but I think we had probably close to 75 or 100 expert witnesses, like world-renowned experts who testified about, what was in the vaccines, what the economic results were.
Hi, if you've been watching this very interesting and informative interview with Ken Drysdale, a commissioner of the National Citizens Inquiry, we're going to move over to Rumble just in case some of the material is a little too controversial for YouTube. So I encourage you to move over there now and watch the rest, because this is a fascinating interview, and I think the best is yet to come.